Alright, so I wasn't going to read this because I talk fast, sometimes I mumble, clear my throat a lot, all that good stuff. But I figured people who just want to hear it or whatnot, then they can kind of grasp what I'm saying. So anyway, this is in 1934. It's Congressman Louis T. McFadden regarding the Federal Reserve Corporation, which is the Federal Reserve Bank, the act of 1913. So here we go. It says, Mr. Chairman, we have in this country one of the most corrupt institutions the world has ever known. I refer to the Federal Reserve Board and the Federal Reserve Banks, hereinafter called the Fed. The Fed has cheated the government of these United States and the people of the United States out of enough money to pay the nation's debt. The depredations and iniquities of the Fed has cost the country enough money to pay the national debt several times over. This evil institution has impoverished and ruined the people of these United States. It has bankrupted itself and has practically bankrupted our government. It has done this through the defects of the law under which it operates, through the maladministration of that law by the Fed, and through the corrupt practices of the moneyed vultures who control it. Some people who think that the Federal Reserve Banks are United States government institutions. They are not government institutions. They are private monopolies which prey upon the people of these United States for the benefit of themselves and their foreign customers, foreign and domestic speculators and swindlers, and rich and predatory money lenders. And that dark crew of financial pirates, there are those who would cut a man's throat to get a dollar out of his pocket. There are those who would send money into states to buy votes to control our legislatures. There are those who maintain international propaganda for the purpose of deceiving us into granting of new concessions which will permit them to cover up their past misdeeds and set again in motion their gigantic train of crime. These 12 private credit monopolies were deceitfully and disloyally foisted upon this country by the bankers who came here from Europe and repaid us our hospitality by undermining our American institutions. Those bankers took money out of this country to finance Japan in a war against Russia. They created a reign of terror in Russia with our money in order to help that war along. They instigated the separate peace between Germany and Russia, and thus drove a wedge between the Allies in the World War. They financed Trotsky's passage from New York to Russia so that he might assist in the destruction of the Russian Empire. They fomented and instigated the Russian Revolution and placed a large fund of American dollars at Trotsky's disposal and one of their branch banks in Sweden so that through him Russian homes might be thoroughly broken up and Russian children flung far and wide from their natural protectors. They have since began breaking up of American homes at their dispersal of American children. Mr. Chairman, there should be no partisanship. There should be no partisanship in matters concerning banking and currency affairs in this country, and I do not speak with any. In 1912, the National Monetary Association, under the chairmanship of the late Senator Nelson W. Aldrich, made a report and presented a vicious bill called the National Reserve Association Bill. This bill is usually spoken of as the Aldrich Bill. Senator Aldrich did not write the Aldrich Bill. He was the tool, if not the accomplice, of the European bankers who, for nearly 20 years, had been scheming to set up a central bank in this country, and who, in 1912, had spent and were continuing to spend vast sums of money to accomplish their purpose. We were opposed to the Aldrich plan for the central bank. The men who ruled the Democratic Party then promised the people that if they were returned to power, there would be no central bank established here while they held the reins of government. 13 months later, that promise was broken, and the Wilson administration, under the tutelage of those sinister Wall Street figures who stood behind the Colonel House, established here in our free country the worm-eating monarchical institution of the King's Bank to control us from the top downward and to shackle us from the cradle to the grave. The Federal Reserve Bank destroyed our old and characteristic way of doing business. It discriminated against our one-name commercial paper, the finest in the world, and it set up the antiquated antiquated two-name paper, which is the present curse of this country, and which wrecked every country which he has given its scope. It fastened down upon the country the very tyranny from which the framers of the Constitution sought to save us.